Waterman, host of From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of Southern California and USC. We are live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center. It's Thursday, March 9th, 2023. Today, we are bringing you a very special show on political polarization on the USC campus. We call it Political Polarization, the trench between the Trojans.
Polarization, meaning the division into two sharply contrasting groups or sets of beliefs. In politics, we hear this word constantly to describe the gap between the two parties: Republican and Democrat, conservative and liberal, right and left. But how do we get here? And how does this battle play out on college campuses? In a place where young people are supposed to explore different ideologies and widen their worldview, is it no longer possible to have respectful discourse between both sides? According to a Pew Research study, since 1970, the ideological gap between the two parties has widened. Democrats have shifted to the left, and Republicans have skewed much more conservative, making the middle ground increasingly hard to find. When the 1994 midterm elections arrived, the Republican Party had not held the House majority for 40 years, since the presidency of Dwight Eisenhower. With their newly held majority, Republicans elected Georgia Representative Newt Gingrich to be their Speaker of the House.
Next Speaker of the People's House, Newt Gingrich.
Gingrich believed that the Republicans needed a mindset overhaul. In his eyes, Republicans and Democrats had been too friendly for too many years. Gingrich viewed the news as an essential tool in his fight for Republican ideals. If you're not in the Washington Post every day, you might as well not exist, he said. Gingrich wanted to reframe the way people saw American politics. It was not about boring policy debates, but about a battle between good and evil. Politics was now a war for power. The 2016 election seemingly made everything worse.
Delegates and fellow Americans, I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
Donald Trump's rise to the presidency tossed gasoline on a simmering fire, as Republicans backed him vehemently and Democrats decried his conduct and policies. Then, on January 6th, 2021, the day Congress was set to formalize Biden's victory, this happened.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
Where does the aftermath of January 6th leave us? Polarization has only gotten worse, not better. Is there hope for collaborative, bipartisan politics in America? And what is the future of political discourse on college campuses? Can the idealistic vision of young people respectfully disagreeing ever exist again? For Annenberg Media, I'm Jack Hallinan.
I'm Jack Waterman, and this is Political Polarization, the trench between the Trojans. On today's show, how people develop their political beliefs.
We are now in an environment where it's not I'm right, you're wrong. It's I'm right, you're evil.
Some students fear backlash for voicing their opinions.
Sometimes I either have to alter some assignments or essays to kind of fit what they believe.
And differing political beliefs can affect friendships.
There's no willingness to understand the other person's point of view.
All that and more on today's special presentation. So let's get right into it. Think of your time here at USC. Do you and your friends share the same political beliefs? How do people develop their political ideologies? And why do they cling so tightly with them? Amy Lopez has the story.
Political socialization refers to the way individuals develop an understanding of their political beliefs and ideologies. Some people at USC are fairly conservative, while others are quite liberal. Where do they get their beliefs in the first place? To get to the bottom of this topic, we talked to Kami Akavan, Executive Director of USC's Dornsife Center for the Political Future.
They come from primarily 3 or 4 places. Number one is they come from their families, their communities, and where they came from before they ever came to USC. Number 2 is they get it from their peer group, which is their friends and social circles on campus and off. 3 is the people in their lives extending to a digital audience. That means social media. And 4th is media beyond social media.
Despite there being lots of places to shape our views, it can be comfortable to hold on to what you already believe in. It can offer a sense of protection. We're often hesitant to discover new perspectives, yet exposure may be the be-all, end-all.
Part of the reason we are so divided is because we just simply lack exposure to things that we are not familiar with. So if I have not really been exposed to someone with a deeply conservative ideology, when I'm first confronted with it, I may perceive it as not just different, but harmful and threatening and bad and must be stopped. So for me, I see exposure as critically important.
Today, lots of news broadcasts claim the U.S. polarization has never been worse. We're too divided to ever come to a consensus on political issues. The Pew Research Center released a study just last November and found that deeply negative views of the opposing party are far more widespread than in the past. Despite the obvious disagreement between parties, there's a more serious underlying issue at hand.
So by some measures, yes, right now is as bad as it's ever been. And some will argue that we are in another civil war, only with fighting with guns, we are fighting with keyboards and pens. It's a different kind of warfare. So this agreement is not bad. The problem, however, is we are now in an environment where it's not I'm right, you're wrong. It's I'm right, you're evil.
Never before have we ever been so obsessed with morals. Akavan explains that the implications of certain ideologies is what we have a problem with. We may feel like our existence is threatened when we come across someone who believes differently than us, especially if the issue is close to home or affects us directly. So then, how can we ever solve this issue if we can't even face each other? Despite systemic causes, Akavan has some thoughts.
It feels good to be wrong sometimes. And I think that's what college campuses are trying to get students to feel, that we came into the university with a certain set of views, but like with anything, as you learn more, you change. And if we are resistant to change, then we will never grow.
Try being wrong sometimes, even if just once. Truly listen to the other perspective and embrace change. For Annenberg Media, I'm Amy Lopez.
We've all had those moments where we're too scared to raise our hand in class, moments where we feel like our opinions didn't matter, or worse, would get us ostracized from our peers. But how often is that an issue at USC? And moreover, is it even a concerning enough issue at all? Our reporter Hallie Mecklin has the story.
According to a 2017 poll by UCLA's Higher Education Research Institute, a combined 57% of college freshmen surveyed identified as either far right or far left. Amid calls that higher education in the U.S. fosters liberal indoctrination, how much of this is true, especially for USC in the heart of Los Angeles County, where 71% of votes went to Joe Biden in 2020? CJ Hunter is a sophomore business administration major. He's also a member of the USC GOP, USC Student Organization for Republicans, and says he doesn't fully express his views in class.
Sometimes I either have to just be silent in class to kind of get participation points, or just a good word with the teacher, or I have to alter some assignments or essays to kind of fit what they believe.
Sasha Hussein is a junior health and human science major, as well as a member of the Trojan Democrats.
Professors try to stay very neutral. In my experience, I haven't seen them lean one certain way or another way, but I think in my classroom, they try to stay out of politics.
Bob Schrum, longtime political strategist for Democratic campaigns and the director of USC's Center for the Political Future, says he's noticed a shift in classroom politics in recent years.
I think it's become more political. I think students have become more political. I think the election of Donald Trump had a lot to do with politicizing campuses to a greater extent than they had been before. I think there are a series of issues. The Dobbs decision, overturning Roe v. Wade, I think has certainly accelerated that polarization.
Schrum says he witnessed this growing polarization firsthand while teaching during the 2016 presidential election.
There were several people who showed up wearing Trump T-shirts and Trump hats. They were acting very triumphant. A lot of people were very devastated. And an argument started to break out where someone accused them of white privilege. And then they started yelling back, and I said, okay, everybody stop. We're just going to stop right now, and we're going to have a real conversation.
Hussein says that she's also experienced political animosity on campus.
It is aggressive on campus, or I have seen it be very aggressive and very cutthroat, and have heard things being said that are actually so atrocious and unnecessary and disrespectful. And I think those things should not be said. But I think for the most part, the discourse is very, very productive.
Some students alter their beliefs to avoid conflict. At other times, students engage in productive discourse. But growing political polarization shows no signs of stopping at USC. For Annenberg Media, I'm Hallie Mecklin.
At what rate do our political ideologies affect our friendships? Is there a limit in which our beliefs restrict how we interact with others? And is that even a bad thing? Susan Narenda has the story on how affiliations affect our friendships.
Have you ever refrained from voicing your political opinions because you were scared of being criticized? Annenberg Radio asks USC students, how do political opinions influence your social and academic interactions at school? Zachariah Syed is a sophomore majoring in cinema and media studies with a minor in business.
I think generally people are pretty free about their thinking. I definitely think it's more left, definitely in a liberal stance. But to be honest, I haven't openly discussed politics with students in general.
Megan Anand is a sophomore majoring in business with minors in law and public policy and legal studies. She's a registered independent voter who is a member of both the Trojan GOP and Trojan Democrats organizations. And she's an executive board member of the USC Political Student Assembly. When asked about having friendships with people who have opposing views, she emphasizes mutual respect and reasoning.
Yeah, so this is interesting because for me, it's not necessarily the belief itself, but rather their reasoning behind their belief or kind of how they listen to the opposing party. So I guess for me, since I'm in political student assembly, it's a bipartisan organization on campus. And so we interact a lot with both members of the GOP and Trojan Dems. And for me, the only way I'll actually, carry some sort of hatred or just annoyance towards an individual in either party is when they speak without listening, or they just kind of make fun of the person talking and giving their opinion.
Sophomore CSBA student Taylor Hill Miles explains the reason why she tends to stay within her bubble, particularly why it is not always by choice. Advaita Chandra Mohan is a student pursuing her progressive degree in applied data science. She says that she could be friends with people who have opposing views.
Within a limit, because I feel the way a lot of liberal people, including myself, view really right-leaning opinions is that it's kind of amoral is the wrong word, but very extreme and maybe hard to empathize with people who have those beliefs on if we were talking about political issues. So I think, and those things tend to come up a lot, so I feel which is probably why I don't hang out with those people as much, and I also haven't found them, to be fair.
As politics seeps into personal interactions, the extent to which individuals with different political ideologies and its influence on friendships has been at the top of concerns. Fred Cook directs the USC Center for Public Relations at Annenberg. He's an expert on political polarization. Cook brings up the most common controversies that people argue about.
It's whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're for Trump or you're for Biden, that kind of thing. And then on a values level, it comes down to a series of issues that are very polarizing.
He lists immigration, abortion, and LGBTQ+ rights as extremely controversial subjects among the diverse population at USC. And for Fred Cook, it was the COVID-19 vaccine that exemplified a defining moment.
People who took the vaccine thought that people that...
We might be better off opening up our minds towards people who have opposing views to us. To ease the tensions of political polarizations, we must break the preconception that people change the mind of others through discussion and seek to understand nuanced opinions rather than reject them. For Annenberg Media, I'm Susan Narenda.
And that concludes today's special presentation, Political Polarization, the Trench Between the Trojans. Spencer Klein, Jeffrey Lee, and Daishlin Satcher produced today's show. We also had help today from Terrence Snyder, Paige Shea, and a special thanks to Nathan Elias. Derek Renfro composed our theme music, and our live stream manager is Vanessa Wong. We'll be back in 3 weeks with more from Where We Are. Signing off, I'm Jack Waterman. Thanks for listening.